this is New York and because we all have Mike White fever, we've got to start there because we're all in it, right? And we're all just so curious about how this guy is going to, what the encore is going to look like for him. Is it as intriguing from the national perspective about what this could do with Zach Wilson, or how do you see this, like the Jets' plan here if Mike White continues to play well?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, so many times, like a lot of football fans, like I look forward to these primetime games so much because, I get to sit and just literally watch one game, which, on Sundays doesn't happen. And then when it's like, Geno Smith versus someone, like I love Geno Smith, don't get me wrong, but it's sort of like a little bit of a bummer, right? This does not feel like that. Like this is suddenly an unbelievably interesting game. And I, like everyone else, kind of had wondered why the Jets didn't bring in some veteran backup, obviously they have Flacco now, but bring in Joe Flacco earlier or like a, Case Keenum type to come in and lend an ear to Zach Wilson. I guess we've sort of learned because Mike White is good. And I sort of wondered if he was. They talked about him like kind of he was, but I didn't actually know until I saw him yesterday. So let me answer your question. If Mike White plays well tonight, then my guess is they will probably give Zach Wilson more time to recover fully, and Mike White will get another start. Is he going to supplant Zach Wilson as the quarterback of the future? I doubt it because there's so much that they liked about Wilson. I think they'd like to see it. Worst case scenario, they end up trading Zach Wilson for a lot and go with it. Reality is it doesn't matter. I don't think that's likely. To me, Zach Wilson's the quarterback of the future, and this is lightning in a bottle. But it could be worse than finding your Tom Brady randomly because of an injury to your other highly touted quarterback.
And before he made, and obviously everyone is talking about Mike White after the 405-yard performance, but talking to the Jets people like you do, you mentioned that they liked him. What did they say about Mike White when he was just Mike White, the backup, competing with James Morgan to be the backup for Zach Wilson?
It wasn't even much. It was just sort of like, because I was wondering who they were going to trade for.
Right.
Were they going to trade for Nick Foles? I think was one that everyone kind of thought that I thought made a lot of sense. So it was always like, well, we like our guys and we like our competition.
So nothing kind of over.
No. It wasn't like I'm not going to pretend that, Joe Douglas was whispering to me like, man, we got something in this because I will say this, if they thought they had this, they would have sat Zach early. It would have taken a lot of guts, but a lot of teams have played no-name backups while their franchise starter waited. The Texans did it with Tom Savage for a game, and then for a little bit, and then Deshaun Watson played. So it wouldn't have been unprecedented, but I don't know that anybody realized what at least they had last week.
Away from the Jets here, I want to ask you about the big news yesterday, and that being Rodgers and the Packers. Was yesterday, I know Florio tweeted out that he got tipped off October 5th, that maybe Rodgers was not vaccinated but couldn't confirm it. Was yesterday the first time you had heard that Rodgers was not vaccinated?
No, I had heard, and I worked on it with a colleague, Mike Garafolo, who we actually reported yesterday that Rodgers was unvaccinated. I kind of had heard it a little bit ago, maybe several weeks ago, but a lot of it didn't make sense. And so first of all, Rodgers said, I thought he said he was vaccinated. I look back at it, and it turns out he said he was immunized, which we learned that was some sort of holistic treatment to boost his antibody levels that obviously didn't prevent him from getting COVID. But anyway, so I was trying to marry me hearing that he's unvaccinated with him kind of sort of saying that he was, even though he didn't. I knew he wore a mask in the building. I knew he did daily testing, but I wasn't sure if that meant he just was like really careful or if he was really unvaccinated. So when I confirmed he was unvaccinated a couple weeks ago, it was sort of like, what do I do with it? Like, I don't know, just as a reporter, like, is it breaking news if you report that someone is secretly unvaccinated, but he's following a lot of the protocols? Like, I wasn't, to me, that's one of those things where like, it makes sense when it affects the game, but just to say source, this player is unvaccinated just felt a little wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess people were, and I wasn't following the Packers, so granularly and closely to know that they were having the unvaccinated players talk to the media over Zoom, yet Aaron Rodgers got to be in the room with people, no mask on, as if, right? Like, that was one of the things that came out yesterday, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
well,
that's true.
That's kind of interesting. I thought Sally Jenkins from the Washington Post put it well when she said, Rodgers is entitled to stay unvaccinated. He's not entitled to lie about it. Considering the teammates, considering the public persona, considering how he answered that question, which, yes, he said, I'm immunized, but they asked, well, are you vaccinated? He said, yeah, I'm immunized, right? Which kind of led people, like, does he have damage control to do here? Because I think a lot of people feel that he was being disingenuous with his answer and sort of how he's gone about.
Yeah, whether he lied or not, he definitely allowed people to believe a certain thing, right?
Totally.
Is that, was he acknowledging the question or was he confirming, yes, I'm vaccinated? Like, I'm not really sure. I answer yeah to a lot of questions, even if I disagree, just because that's what I just happened to say. Right. It doesn't matter because he still clearly led people down the path of believing he was vaccinated. And he referred to unvaccinated players as those people.
Yeah, those guys.
As if he wasn't. As if he wasn't one of them. I don't know that Aaron Rodgers, quote unquote, owes us an explanation for why he is unvaccinated. I mean, I think everybody should be vaccinated, but I don't make decisions on other people's bodies, right? So I don't know. I would just be curious to hear his rationale for letting us go down the path, and then also for not believing in the vaccine. Right?
Yeah. I guess my thing is, would he not want to make it a story? You saw the reaction with Kirk Cousins and Cam Newton, Cole Beasley up in Buffalo.
But as for quarterbacks, life is different. I mean, it's like,
why not? But if you're unvaccinated, why not just I'm going to. I chose not to get the vaccine. I mean, why not? Why decide to? Whether you want to say you nitpick and talk about the verbiage or not. He led people to believe that he was vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as a very wise Matt LaFleur said, like, that's a great question for Aaron. And that's sort of my question is, like, if you don't believe in the vaccine, like, it's all very strange to me. Like, Rodgers has had a shoulder injury, he's had a knee injury, he's had a serious calf injury. He goes to experts to fix those injuries. He went to one of the best shoulder doctors in the country, Neil Elitrosh, to put plates and screws in his shoulder, and he's never had an issue. Why does he trust those doctors and not the doctors who say that we should all as a world get vaccinated? Like, I have no idea. But Rodgers is very outspoken. I mean, he had that incredible press conference early in the year where he literally talked about all the reasons why he didn't trust his own front office and all the different things. Like, I'm surprised that he didn't stand up and say, I'm unvaccinated, I don't believe in it, and here's why. Because I don't know. I mean, he would have got criticized, but he gets criticized for things he says all the time. Why is this different?
Yeah, and eventually people would have moved on, right? If he's following the protocols, just like we moved on with Kirk Cousins and we moved on with other guys who didn't want to, and Cole Beasley even, who was so much different because he was out there and a lot of his stuff was misinformation and it was just a totally different type of thing. Ian Rapoport is our guest. Okay, moving away from the Rodgers story.
Let me ask one more on Rodgers.
Sorry.
I'm just curious, Ian, is he okay? Is he asymptomatic? Like, we know he's not vaccinated and he took a holistic approach, but have you heard how Rodgers is feeling?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Well, hopefully he's not feeling, badly. Of course, even if you disagree with someone's decision, you don't want anyone to suffer. Not at all.
No.
Okay, moving away from that, Ian, this is an odd, really, really sad, not odd is the wrong word, just sad, tragic story with the Las Vegas Raiders. So now they're coming here to play the Giants. Moose and I were talking about this in the break. Was there ever a sense of, I know this is so rare, but even forfeiting the game? I mean, honestly, I know they wouldn't do that, but it just feels, given the gravity of that situation and how tragic it was to play football, I can't imagine that the Las Vegas Raiders want any part of this game on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, and they're all professionals and they're going to go out and play and, everyone's going to watch and then, it's a business, so everybody's going to move on. I absolutely understand all that. And there's a lot of money to be lost with a forfeit. That's just the world we live in. I have a hard time imagining how those players are going to do it. I mean, we've seen it before, the death of a player, a tragic death, and then a team goes and plays a game. I mean, there's been teams who have played amid tragic circumstances. And I guess you lose yourself in the game and couldn't go do it. It's hard for me to fathom how you do that, because in this case, it's not Henry Ruggs having something horrible happen to him. It's him causing all of these horrible things to someone else's family, and the death. And apparently a dog died as well. And he has a broken hip or a serious hip problem. And his life is going to change forever. And if he's convicted, he's probably going to go to jail, or he is going to go to jail if he's convicted, 2 to 20 years. Like, I don't know how you compartmentalize all of that. They're going to do it, but it's hard for me to be in that locker room and imagine someone giving a speech that's like, okay, let's go win this game now.
Yeah.
Ian, Henry with Tennessee, do the Titans, are they holding out hope that maybe they see him again this year, or is that hope gone?
No, they're holding out hope. And I would say if you do the figuring, the weeks, it actually makes sense. So he had surgery when was that? I don't know. It seems like 85 years ago. Was that?
It's been a long week.
I have no idea. Was that this Monday?
Yeah, it was this past Monday. Yeah.
Yep.
Jeez. Doesn't that seem like 20 years?
Yes, it does.
It does.
Yesterday seems like a week. Anyway, so he should be 8 weeks is about January 1st. They have a big lead in the division. They have Adrian Peterson now. They have a good quarterback and some really good receivers. If they can just hang on, and let's say they lose the lead, let's say they make the playoffs as a wild card, 8 weeks is the recovery for a Jones fracture, right? If you put a screw in your foot, 8 to maybe 9 weeks, like, he should be ready. And, he's going to be rehabbing. He's going to be in good shape. He's going to have sort of fresh legs, even though he's coming off surgery. Like, Derrick Henry will probably be back for the playoffs, and that gets extremely interesting for the Titans if they make it.
Ian, last one for me quickly. We have a little Odell fatigue in this city, but obviously throughout the league, he's still a big story.
I was waiting for this question.
Of course. I mean, it's obligatory, but it's excused from his second straight practice. What's going on behind the scenes there? What's going to happen here?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I know there's a game this week. Like, hard for me to imagine he plays. We'll see, but hard for me to imagine. They're trying to figure out how to resolve this. And here are the options. They can cut him, in which case he goes on waivers. They pay all of his money. If someone claims him, they pay the salary, but he's probably not going to get claimed. And then he gets to be a free agent, but it also means he forced his way out of town. Maybe he gives back some money to get free. Also possible. They could reach an agreement and sort of a mutual parting of the ways, and he could be free. Or they could just say, you know what? No, we're good. We'll just keep you. And if you don't want to play, you can stay home or you can play. Like, basically do what the Texans did to Deshaun Watson, which is like, you don't have to play, but you can't hang around here. So they could deactivate him every week, and they could, teams are worried about precedent a lot. And if you allow a player to shoot his way out of town, sometimes they give other players the idea they could do that. I don't know which way it's going to go, but it's extremely up in the air, and it's much more complicated than like what's sort of being reported, which is like, oh, he's never going to play again. Like,
it's not that easy.
I don't know how this is going to end.
Big dead cap hit. I mean, a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Ian, last quickly here, Saints, are they going to bring in a veteran quarterback with the Winston news?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be Trevor Siemian, who played well last week, who Sean likes, who does everything he's told, and will keep the offense moving. They still got a really good defense. I still think they're a playoff team. So I don't think it's going to be Phillip Rivers warming up his arm from Alabama, but we'll see what happens this week and how Simeon is.
Yes, I like that he's interested. He'd take the phone call. Glad to know he'd take the phone call from Sean Payton.
Doubt.
Yeah. Thanks,
Ian,
Phil.
thanks so much. We'll talk to you next Thursday,
Thanks,
okay?
All right, look forward to it, guys.
Okay,
you got it.
Thanks so much.